Let's see here. Oh, here he is. Here's the Empire State Building guy, number 633. I've had sex while hanging out the window of the Empire State Building. It was somewhere in the high floors in the 70s or 80s. I forget exactly what floor. But it's the part of the building that's colored by the lights, and it was Christmas, and it was snowing. So he sort of bent me over out the window, and I was looking down into the light shining up into my face, the red light shining up into my face, and the snow was hitting the building and then blowing up into my face. And I was also looking south down into lower Manhattan and into the World Trade Center and so forth, and it's like, wow, this is kind of cool. I'm having sex outside the window of the Empire State Building. This is something I won't tell my grandkids. It was Socrates who said the unexamined life is not worth living. So how do I examine my life? Well, part of that is by keeping lists, by categorizing things. I just find it interesting to collect data points. We're in an era of big data where more data is better than less data. On my little old-fashioned BlackBerry, I probably have 2 or 3 dozen lists. I've never stopped to count. They range from the 60 or so countries I've visited, the number of Shakespeare productions I've seen. When I go to parties and someone recommends a good book, I put that on a list. I've always kept a list of how much I weigh in any given month. I need to feel that I'm somewhat in control, and list keeping helps me accomplish that. The list of all my sexual partners, that's a fairly complete list. I would say it's complete plus or minus 5 or at most 10 partners that I've forgotten over the years. So I'm pushing 20 years of partners on my happy little list. The first 2 I have here, MBK and MU. And then I started collecting names on little Post-it notes. On the book and the Post-it notes, I have a total of 187. And on my BlackBerry, I go to memo section. Okay. I actually call it tricks, my tricks list, which is a little bit undignified, but c'est la vie. Okay, so let me just scroll down here. I have 749 names. From 749, okay, let me just see. Well, here's number 608, comedian top. He was obviously funny. Smart, passionate top, ejaculated 3 times. Yeah, I remember that. That was impressive. 409, Eric, sexy, smart, Alphabet City, amazing connection. Don't remember him. Mike from the Upper East Side had a blindfold on. He was also bottom. Number 397, John, awful old guy living in Rat Hole Studio. Wow, that wasn't very nice. I wonder why I stayed. 385, Charles. He was an escort, but I got him for free. I did him for free. Scott, 9 inches. Thank you, Scott. Number 11 was Roy. Roy brought me bagels. I called him the bagel guy. I thought it was kind of a nice touch. This is just a way by which I give the experience perhaps some dignity, a way to sort of memorialize it. I was brought up in the Pittsburgh suburbs, Western Pennsylvania, in the 60s and 70s. I'm 49 years old. I grew up in a nice home, in a nice neighborhood. I went to private schools, Catholic schools. I was pretty sure that I was gay in a time and place that wasn't as open as it is now. You know, when you're 6 or 7 or 8 years old and you notice how handsome Robin is and how nice it seems that Batman and Robin have this very comfortable relationship with each other, and somehow that resonates with you, but you don't quite understand how or why. And I was different. I guess that's the punchline. 129, a guy who stopped by on his way to Macy's to give me a blowjob. Yes, I remember he had Macy's bags, he was returning or something, and he just wanted to give somebody a quick blowjob on the way, and I was on the way. Oh, here's a big Russian guy, B-I-G in capital letters. He had mom on his left bicep, and he had dad on his right bicep, which I thought was kind of cool. And I said, did it hurt when it was done? He said, mom hurt, but dad didn't, which was sort of the story of his life, apparently. Guy number 344, he was a recovering sex addict. So it was fascinating to see what he would or would not do. Like, he would touch me, but he wouldn't touch my penis, and I could touch his penis, but I couldn't have him ejaculate. You could just imagine, he would go to his sexually compulsive anonymous meetings like, nope, I didn't ejaculate this week, and I didn't touch anyone's penis this week. Yeah, he was very creative at not having sex with me while having sex with me. Am I sexually compulsive? I don't think I am, but it's something I track very carefully. There is SCA, Sexually Compulsive Anonymous Groups. I've had partners who go to those meetings. Some of them report that they're very effective and very helpful. Others report that they're a great place to go to find more sexual partners. One thing I do every year, I have a very strict Lenten observance. I give up dessert and fried food and caffeine and meat. I also give up trolling for sex. So for 46 days, I force myself to get out of the habit. If there's any year that I can't, well, then that's the year that I go to an SCA meeting. Because I'm in New York, the capital of the world, because everybody is here, every culture and religion and ethnicity, anyone you can possibly imagine. Most of them have a gay subset to their communities, and I've slept with most of them. Former priests or current priests or Buddhist monks or Hasidic Jews or, young guys who just got to New York from some state in the Midwest, Iowa or some such place. Or their mothers calling from like Oshkosh, I hope you're being a good boy and eating your Wheaties. Meanwhile, he's like in his little porta sling with his underwear stuffed in his mouth while grandma's going on. I've never actually met somebody on the street. All my friends have done that. But with me, if I'm out on the street, I have my list. I know what I want to accomplish, and unless tricking is on that list, I don't care how good looking a person is, I'm not all that interested. Oh, here's 657, a guy that I ended up with for 2.5 years. At the time I said, wonderful, smart, handsome guy. And he turned out to be, until he wasn't. 676, nice guy who couldn't perform and then accused me of having anal warts. Yes, that was a nice moment. I went to my doctor and I said, do I have anal warts? He says, no, you don't. I said, thank you, Danny. 374, Greg. Greg had nipples the size of the ends of my thumbs. He had worked them to be huge, huge, huge. It was really kind of creepy. So Greg, big nippled bottom. Oh my God. Here's a guy who took out his front teeth. He had false teeth, and before we had sex, he took out his teeth. That was not a turn on. Well, my method for finding sexual partners. Craigslist is a very efficient and effective way. Whatever you're in the mood for at any given time, you can just write up the quick post, have it on Craigslist, and then whenever your mood changes, you delete it. In the hookup world, there are two types of lies. The lies that you kind of expect, and then the types of lies that go beyond that. What I mean by lies that are in the realms of expectations, if someone puts in a profile that they're 49, you know they're 53. If someone puts that they're very good looking, VGL, you know that they're probably okay. If they say they have an average body, you know that it's below average. They say that they're husky, it means they're fat. You just learn how to translate. One of the other things that I find funny is penis size, dick size. The average male's member is about 5 inches. If a person says they're 8 inches, you know that their penis is slightly above average. It's probably a nice size. If they say it's 7, that means it's probably average. If they say 6, that means slightly below average, but not too bad. You probably want to question them a little bit more and certainly ask for a picture. If penis size really makes a difference to you, it really doesn't to me. It's not how big it is, it's what you do with it. Beyond that, there are egregious lies. People who say they're 49 and they're 72. If I get the sense that somebody's lying to me, there's a lot of ways I have to determine if a person is lying. I'll ask them for a picture. If the picture is a group photo and they cropped it down to one person, you know they're not for real. They had to go through dozens of pictures to find one where they looked decent and they had to crop it. The pictures which are best are the guys who sort of take off their shirts, stand in front of the bathroom mirror, hold up their smartphone and take a picture of themselves. And then ideally it will be dated and you can see that it's recent. I'm willing to put myself out there, and if they're not, there are plenty of other fish in the sea. Number 143, he had a terrible drug problem. I almost didn't play with him, but he seemed nice enough. And then I mentioned I had a computer problem. And the good thing about being high is that you're a little bit manic. He spent 4 hours after sex and fixed my computer, like totally rebuilt my computer. So thank you, Todd. Number 388, Mike, rough looking top. You know what? Some things you just can't put into words. He knew what he wanted and he knew how to take it. Let's leave it at that. 113, Mike. Mike paid me. Thank you, Mike. There's a small group of guys who just get off on paying people for sex. I think the most I was paid was $250 plus tip. Apparently you tip. Oh wow, this was a good night. 78 to 89, the West Side Club. So that is 11 guys in one go. Wow, that was in 2003. It's nice to be young. People talk about bathhouses and ask me if I've been to bathhouses. Yes, of course I have. But it's not about kissing. It's not about touching. It's just about organ grinding. And that's not so much fun. The best part of sex, it's the afterglow. It's laying in somebody's arms. You've just had this intensity that you've shared together. I had a partner not too long ago, and we had an amazing, very, very intense sexual experience, after which time he pulled a book off his shelf and read me his favorite Shakespeare soliloquy. Then there are circumstances where you get guys who just think they've fallen in love with you in 7 minutes. I'm kind of good at connecting to people and relating to people and getting people to like me and so forth. Sometimes I'm a little too good at it because then you have to very deftly dial them back. But 9 times out of 10, all they really need to do is ejaculate and then their head's clear and everything is fine. Here's 638, Ethan. He was an Abercrombie & Fitch model. Ethan was fun. Well, no, he wasn't fun. Guys who look like Abercrombie & Fitch models really aren't that fun because they don't have to be. They don't have to try very hard. But it's fun to try very hard with them. Number 612. I won't say the name. From Park Avenue. I can't go into too many details, but this guy is in the jeans business, blue jeans. And we had great sex. He had stirrups hanging from his ceiling. After we did our thing in the stirrups, he was asking me about jeans. And he said, well, you can tell a lot about a person by the kind of jeans they wear. And he said, well, what kind of jeans do you wear? I said, well, I don't really have a pair of jeans anymore. He says, oh my goodness, I will give you a pair of jeans. So he opened up this huge armoire. He says, oh, what kind of jeans should I give you? Oh, jeans, jeans, jeans. And he pulled this pair and he said, this is the perfect pair of jeans for you. And I put these jeans on and they were the most God-blessed, perfect pair of jeans for me. I still wear them. So thank you, jeans guy. Number 388, he had a very nice dog. And after we had sex and both ejaculated, the dog ran over and licked the semen off both our bodies. And the guy was really embarrassed about it because it was obvious that he had trained his dog to lick the semen off his penis. That's a lot better trick than getting your slippers. One of my favorite novels, it's more of a novella, but one of my favorites, and it's called The Death of Ivan Ilyich by Leo Tolstoy. It takes place in Imperial Russia in the latter part of the 19th century, but it's about a young professional who basically realizes that he's dying young. And he realizes that he's done everything that's been expected of him followed all the rules, maintained all the conventions, and honored all the traditions. Of course, it's Tolstoy, so he's not only dying physically, but he's also dying spiritually. The death is more of a metaphor for his spiritual death. The climactic line in the novella is he realizes that he had lived his life wrong. And that's a very sad revelation to come by on your deathbed. A lot of the conversations I've had with married guys or guys otherwise in relationships are guys in places they don't want to be in their lives. They're like, I'm living my life incorrectly. But that's not fair because I've done everything that was expected of me. I've gone to the right schools and ended up with the right people and lived in the right places and honored my family and donated to charity and ate my broccoli, and still I'm not self-actualized, and I'm never going to be self-actualized. The worst loneliness is being lonely in a relationship. I think we've all been lonely in relationships. At least when you're single, you can always think that you might bump into Mr. or Ms. Right on the next corner. I've actually bought multiple copies of The Death of Ivan Illich and given it to partners because I think it's an important message to us all. You have to understand the rules, you have to try to work within the constraints of the rules, and then you have to make your own rules. I have friends who would sneer at 749. They probably have many times that. I have a former roommate who I'm sure could multiply my 749 number by 4 or 5 or 10, who knows. I think we're all looking for a long-term relationship. The relationships I've had in the past have all been quote-unquote open, whereby on occasion, if the need was there, you could go off and do what you needed to do. I'm not going to fall in love with anybody else, and I'm always going to come home to that person. And in those periods, my one-off experiences are minimal, no more than once a month. I have a lot of sex because I can have a lot of sex. I'm living in a society and living in a time and place where there's a lot of willing sexual partners, and I'd be crazy not to avail myself of that opportunity. It's fun. Sex is a good thing. I sometimes have to remind myself that not everybody is like me. There are gay males who don't have hundreds of sexual partners. I am not necessarily typical of the gay community. I am who I am. There's a building that overlooks the Dakota on Central Park West, of course, where John Lennon used to live, where Yoko still does live. And I had sex with 3 guys on a terrace. I remember one of us sort of ejaculated off over the terrace. I don't think we hit the roof of the Dakota. Let me see, I just got a text here, see if it's someone. Oh, no, that's not somebody looking to meet. Oh, another one. Nope, another false alarm. Anyway, when I hear the little buzz of a text message, I'm, for a split second, sexually stimulated, because maybe a third or a quarter of my text messages are guys looking for sex. My mother's calling me. That's not a good time to talk.